Today is September 4th, 2022, and I'm joined here with Michael in Germany, and I'm in Minnesota, and that is in the United States of Romerica, as our friend Jörg Listman likes to call it. And, of course, this is a Roman Earth, as we've been reading in this book that I've been recently reading online here called The Seventh Vial. But today we are going into the Science is the New Religion script with Michael. We're on session 91. We're on the Atom series, and Michael has worked really long to produce some very interesting facts for us in the States. Michael, thank you for doing this for us. It's such a pleasure to have you back.
Oh, the pleasure is on my side, dear Brett and dear listener. Thank you for having me and bearing with me. And I'm trying to go through this script of the atom or the atomist, so the pseudo-religion, so to speak. So we have to very much differ between atomic power, atomic reaction, atomic blast, atomic bombs, atomic radiation. So this is all just science in a nutshell. Science is a new religion, and science is, of course, the old religion. And now comes the new world order, which is the old world order. So when science was the old religion, then science is also the new religion. Yeah. So I'm not embarrassed, and I'm not surprised that they take now the science to convince people into believing things which are not visible, which is not other than religion, because it's a belief system. It is not pure science, because even they can't prove it. And I think that all of you know what I'm talking about, the current situation, of course. So this is a session about Japan, and especially about Hiroshima, the world-famous town. Yeah, so what is Hiroshima other than a trump card for the powers to be, or the powers in place, or the secret team, or the military-industrial complex, and what other things you would like to call for the real people with the real power behind, which are, of course, the Pharisees and the scribes, right, Brett?
Yes, Matthew 23.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could have implemented the Bible here, but I think that...
Well, I can just chime in on that, because I've got it memorized. The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. And let's see, I'll pull it up here too, just so I don't mince words here. Matthew 23. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees. Oh, you're not there yet, Michael. I'll wait. The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore, whatsoever they bid you, observe. It's very interesting, Michael, how it is worded here. All therefore, whatsoever they bid you, observe. That observe and do. But do not after their works, for they say and do not. Oh, this sounds like rhetoric to me, Michael.
Yeah.
They say and do not, for they bind heavy burdens, grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. Yeah, they make broad their phylacteries, that is their tombs. They make broad their resting places when they die. They enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the uppermost rooms at feasts, and the chief seats of the synagogues, and greetings in the markets, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi, which means teacher, teacher.
Can you imagine what is going to my mind when you read and love the uppermost rooms at feasts? I'll give you a hint.
Go ahead.
You will switch to Google and I type in Kennedy Nixon, Spellman. That's what's coming to our mind. You see the Al Smith dinner.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's a prime example in this day and age.
Yeah, so that is what's really going on in my mind when I think about these feasts and in the lodge, actually, yeah. So that at the supreme seat.
Yeah, we're talking high places in terms of power.
Yeah, absolutely. So
well, the Lord Jesus Christ rebuked the scribes and the Pharisees very well in this chapter, and we don't need to go into it too deep, but it's really interesting how in the beginning it says, whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not after their works. Do ye not after their works.
Okay, so shall we then move over to the script?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Hiroshima. I think that everybody is familiar to a place called Hiroshima. I think that the majority of people, they really do know that Hiroshima was the place where the so-called atom bomb, or the first atom bomb, was being dropped in 1945 to officially end the Second World War, which is untrue, but which we soon will find later on. So Hiroshima, Wikipedia tells me, is a city in Japan. And I was remembered about a song of I think it was the early 1970s, of the band of Wishful Thinking, Hiroshima. And I think that if you would know the end of the session, then you would really see that Hiroshima was wishful thinking of the Roman Catholic Church. So what has the Roman Catholic Church to do with Hiroshima? Or with the first atom bomb? Well, let's find out. Hiroshima is a city in Japan. The city of Hiroshima. This is just the one-to-one copied example and article of the Wikipedia entry. So that is nothing special here. Yeah, you will see that there are many, many pages and many, many things which are absolutely irrelevant and not of interest when we look upon that. So we know that this is in Japan, and that's it. Yeah, so you know that it is a big city. Now it's got 1.2 million people. 1.2 million people. Wait, hasn't there been an atom bomb dropped? Haven't we been told that there is no life possible because of all the radiation for, what, centuries? Or even longer? So, what's about Hiroshima? What's so special about Hiroshima? Well, the city was a center of military activities during the imperial era, so meaning the emperor. And the Emperor of Japan also has been seen as a god, so that is also very key to understand that Japan plays quite a significant role. And also Hiroshima playing a significant role as in the First Sino-Japanese War, the Russian-Japanese War, and the two world wars. Hiroshima was the first city targeted by a so-called nuclear weapon. This occurred on August 6, 1945. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's that month of August again.
Yeah. Since being rebuilt after the war, Hiroshima had become the largest city in the, Chugoku region of western Honshu. Mm-hmm. So, originally it was a small fishing village. I said, fishing village in Japan, not uncommon when you are at the coast, and it's not uncommon actually. I was remembered instantly about Godzilla coming out of the sea. Yeah, and there was an economic attached to a Zen Buddhist temple. So this is the official timeline of Wikipedia, but no wonder that they will forget something on purpose. Officially, they tell you the growth of Hiroshima as a city continued after the First World War, as the city now attracted the attention of the Catholic Church. And on May the 4th, 1923, an apostolic vicar was appointed for that city. Aha. So, the Roman Catholic Church, even in that small Wikipedia entry here, had an interest in Hiroshima, it seems. So, on Monday. A nuclear weapon called Little Boy was dropped on Hiroshima from an American Boeing B-29 What is 2 plus 9?
11.
Yeah, super fortress, the so-called Enola Gay. Yeah, so that is officially been named after the mother of a pilot there, Enola Gay. Has nothing to do with being gay so far, it seems. And there is an English band called Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, or in short terms OMD, called Enola Gay. I think it was 1980, 81, somewhere. Yeah, so that is the super fortress bomber which dropped officially the bomb. Okay, so that's very interesting. Yeah, so to B29 to 45, you can translate it also in other terms, Brett. That would be 2 and 9 is 11. Come on, computer. So that is 11, and 4 and 5 is 9. There you got your 9/11 once again. Just a small just a small hint now. That is not a major thing here, but I look at these things also. You know? So that killed officially 70,000 people, thousands of Korean slave laborers. And by the end of the year, injury and radiation brought the total number of deaths to about 90 to 166,000. Very interesting. Yeah, so the population before the bombing was around 345,000. About 70% of the city buildings were destroyed, another 7% severely damaged. Yeah, well, that is Enola Gay's little boy. Greetings from the Americans. To end the war officially. Yeah, so that is a picture of the so-called Hiroshima explosion, which, and this is very interesting, was not happening at ground level, but at a certain height. That is very unusual in the Second World War, let me tell you, as far as what my research was telling me. But their uranium-235 weapon was considered very inefficient, with only 1.7% of its fissile material reacting. The radius of total destruction was about 1 mile, 1.6 kilometers. So it was a small one, hence the name Little Boy. So what's so special about Hiroshima? Of course, it's for the collective mind, the collective knowledge, and for the common knowledge, actually. If you go into this Hiroshima article, it seems to never end. It's a very hot city. It's very hot there. But you see there are tons of useless information here, and which I like to drop, but you see that for them, even on Wikipedia, for a city in Japan, it's quite a lot of information. And this is now the historical population of Hiroshima. And you see here a drop of 60% in the year 1945, where the alleged nuclear reaction took place in Hiroshima. And then you see out of a sudden, 5 years later, twice the amount of population then. Yeah, and then it's growing steadily. So there can't be any big amount of radiation in Hiroshima. Yeah. So, question I found: is there still radiation in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? And that is a very impressive answer. The radiation in Hiroshima and Nagasaki today is on par with the extremely low levels of background radiation or natural radioactivity present anywhere on Earth. It has no effect on human bodies. Brett, I got a problem now, because the official doctrine says that the atom bombs were being dropped to end the war. You see, the problem is, if you really follow the official guidelines and the official doctrines, you won't get anywhere, because it seems that these so-called atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki didn't have the effect of terrible devastation. Okay, they killed a big amount of people, but it seems there is no radiation, which usually is the fear of people, that they will getting burned from the excessive heat, that they will be destroyed of the outrageous storm coming after that, and or earthquakes even, and of course about the radiation on short, mid or long term. Found that very interesting. Atomic bombs differ from conventional bombs in emitting explosive energy on an entirely different order of magnitude and radiation. Except the examples of the Japanese atom bombs. Yeah, of the emitted energy, 5% was initial radiation and 10% was residual radiation. The initial radiation emitted at the moment of detonation inflicted great damage to human bodies. Well, I think that's the allegation here. Yeah, so I want to see the proof. Most of those exposed to direct radiation within 1 kilometer radius died. Residual radiation was emitted later. Roughly 80% of residual radiation was emitted within 24 hours. Research has indicated that 24 hours after the bombing, the quantity of residual radiation a person would receive at the hypocenter would be a thousandth of the quantity received immediately following the explosion. A week later, 1 millionth parts. The radiation declined rapidly, but that does not inform us about the potential threat of that quote-unquote nuclear weapon. Yeah, so the population density in Hiroshima and Nagasaki was been dropped, of course, but there is some other things to it. In the lifespan study cohort of atomic bomb survivors, differences in urbanicity between high-dose and low-dose survivors should confound the association between radiation dose and adverse outcomes. Would you really like to read everything to you? I don't think so, because you can't prove that. Yeah, so you have to start with common sense. You really have to start with common sense, and let's start after skipping here with common sense. That was an article by the Oxford University Press on behalf of the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health.
Oh, by the way, Oxford.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, as I recall, there is an interesting period in history in Great Britain where this Oxford movement started up. So, yeah, Oxford is an interesting study there because there is a book called The Secret History of the Oxford Movement that I have that speaks about, you know, some of these actually occult principles being introduced into the church.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a subtle and difficult subject there, but certainly Oxford brings about that name brings about that memory to me. And also that reminds me of the beginning of this series, Michael, when you were speaking about science is the new religion. This term metaphysic that we went over last time, I was introduced to that subject early on when I was young by a fellow from church. And it's a long, long story, and I don't think I need to get into it too much. But basically, I've always been very curious about that metaphysic word because I never really truly understood it until, trying to grasp the reading of the scriptures and what that means. So, certainly the worldview has everything to do with your spiritual view because the spiritual view comes first. The spiritual view is always before the physical because it's more or less a manifestation, isn't it? The physical view is a manifestation of the spiritual. Therefore, if you have your spiritual, what can we say, senses or your spiritual awareness, your spiritual understanding correct, then things fall into place easier, Michael. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, sure. It depends on the foundation. Yeah, you see, if you got the foundation A, then you will come to another outcome than anybody who is in the belief of the foundation B.
But, because you have in the Bible, you have Jesus being the chief cornerstone that the builders rejected. So what does that mean?
They reject the truth.
In the world, we're going to find a lot of data and a lot of study like this that has nothing to do with the truth, actually. It has everything to do with philosophy and vain deceit, traditions of men, rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. Colossians 2:8. Wow. So what do we have here, Michael?
Oh, these are just images of a napalm explosion. So what is napalm? Napalm is an incendiary mixture of a gelling agent and a volatile petrochemical, usually gasoline, petrol, or diesel fuel. Yeah, so this is a bomb which is the main ingredients is gasoline. So it's burning. Yeah, and it shall burn because it shall ignite trees, houses, etc. to create a devastate effect. Yeah, so you don't have only the explosion of a bomb to kill people, but the destroyed architecture and infrastructure. Yeah, so that is also a key thing in warfare, to destroy and so create a devastating effect to the civilians also. Yeah, so this is napalm, which has been used, for example, in the Vietnam War. That is very, very, very common for the napalm war. That for the Vietnam War, that's why you see here American GIs. I found it very interesting that in the Second World War already they have used napalm bombs to intensify the United States attacks during the Second World War. Very interesting. Bombing ground targets from air is tricky and not always accurate, but a new type of bomb creates an unimaginable level of destruction. Remember Revelation 9:11, Apollyon, the destroyer.
Right.
Yeah. And strengthens United States attacks in the Pacific, from the Syrian to Pacific War in cutter striking distance. Oops. So, keyword. So very interesting. I said, oh yeah, that's my boy, huh? I said, okay, that interesting enough that we do not know that much about Hiroshima actually. And I have found a source, napalm Hiroshima, because I can't find it in my script. Was Hiroshima firebombed and not nuked? Yeah, because it was a common actually that the United States were using napalm bombs, and I have seen some witnesses who are claiming that there was, in the night before the alleged atom bomb was dropped on the little boy from Enola Gay, there was an attack of about 200 to 400 American bombers bombarding Hiroshima. Yeah. So you see in Hiroshima, you see buildings which have not collapsed, and you see windows have been shattered, and some windows which have not been shattered, and you even see some trees. Yeah. So when there really would be an atomic blast, yeah, you would imagine, you would think that there is no tree standing there, but actually it did. Yeah. So Japan was officially also been attacked by napalm bombs. Yeah, so that is it's very interesting, because that will create then a firestorm, which we already had in Germany in 1943 in the city of Hamburg, which is the second largest city, I remember, second or third largest city in Germany, and in Dresden.
So I didn't know that Hamburg got hit in 1943.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Jörg is from Hamburg.
I know. Yeah. That's a firestorm is destroying Hamburg in July 1943. Yeah, maybe we find some interesting pictures. Yeah.
Right.
You see, that's not a small damage here. This is enormous of a destruction. Yeah. But also you see this is just punctual. You see that some buildings are not affected and some buildings are heavily affected on that blast or firestorm. Yeah. You see, you won't never get to the illusion to say that this was a nuclear blast, because some buildings are still standing and trees as well. Yeah, but on the other hand, you see there are some buildings totally destroyed. Not talking about the people, of course. Yeah, so this is the work not of an atomic bomb in Hamburg. This is the work of napalm, of firestorm. Yeah, if you compare that to Dresden 1945, where no one is allowed to talk about in Germany because actually they are downplaying the numbers, which I told you last time. Yeah, these are pictures of Dresden in 1945.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, of course, you don't see any dead bodies here, which is convenient for our study here because I don't want to show that. But you can imagine if you got a city totally on fire. And in the old days, so to speak, many people had wooden carpets, wooden floors spread.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that it burned quite well. Yeah. So that is a destructive element. Yeah, and so what shall convince me that it was an atomic bomb in Hiroshima? Yeah, when the British and the American already used that kind of tactics in Germany on several occasions, and also in Japan in the same year, 1945. And what shall convince me that now Hiroshima is the exception? Yeah, so it is an atom bomb or an incendiary firestorm. Yeah, so that's it's very interesting. You see that I can only give you some clues where you can start your own research upon from, based on my assumptions and based on my studies. And you see that as there was no measurable radiation in Hiroshima, you got a hard time convincing me that there was really a blast of an atomic bomb, especially when you have areas of Hiroshima. Yeah. Because there are still buildings standing, and you see that if you got a center blast, yeah, you would assume that the center blast goes on to every direction, destroying everything, which has been said to us in very interesting small animations or even cartoons, how ridiculously...
Michael, pause, please. Look at where your cursor is right at this moment. Okay. The 40-year study of thousands of Japanese who survived the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki found radiation exposure did not cause genetic damage that could lead to human mutations. Bam!
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. The researcher John Boyce of the National Cancer Institute said ionizing radiation is known to cause heritable mutations in many species of plants and animals, but intense studies of 70,000 offspring of atomic bomb survivors have failed to identify an increase in congenital abnormalities. Abnormalities, yeah. Cancer, chromosome aberrations, or mutational blood protein changes. So there is... got a hard time believing that it was, as it been said on... yeah. Yeah, well, it's in the same line as the current threat. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's very interesting when you know about that. When that actually we have been fooled. Let's talk about JFK and all the things. And how can they do that? How can they even put out false information or not telling the entire truth? Sure, bombs have exploded then, and I don't doubt that from that Enola Gay plane, a bomb has been dropped. But which bomb and with which cause? In Japan, shortly after the Second World War, they have erected a so-called Civil Censorship Department, CCD. Yeah? So it exercised considerable influence over the operation and administration of the American occupation of Japan after World War II, which means that the Americans who have dropped the bomb were in control of the information about that bomb. Isn't that convenient, huh?
Sounds like the media on 9/11 to me.
Yeah.
Same kind of operation.
Yeah. So censorship in Japan has taken many forms, we're speaking of the current situation, throughout the history of the country. While Article 21 of the Constitution of Japan guarantees freedom of expression and prohibits formal censorship, effective censorship of obscene content does exist and is justified on another article. But let me tell you, speaking about the current situation, since 2019 or 19, have you seen any Japanese publication about an alternative view on the current situation? I have not, which my logical result and outcome must be that the entire world or the entire news are being censored. And it's very interesting that they have erected that kind of a department, then civil censorship department. It's a censorship. Yeah, so they admit that they withheld or withholding any information. And what can be the content of that very, very sensual information? Yeah, when it is after the Second World War. Yeah, sure, that must be in the first line, must be the attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah, so don't go into Wikipedia pages tell you the freedom of press exists, and even Japan has been indicated here as problematic. Yeah, and in the United States it's satisfactory. Yeah, if you really want a good press, then you have to move to Norway, Sweden, Finland, or Greenland. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, maybe in Greenland you have a free press because there is no newspaper. Man, what a joke. Yeah, so joke. Yeah, it's a joke. So when I went down to these Hivako pages, he told me, and that guy is an engineer if I remember correctly, he says that in that system also ensures that the atomic bomb and radiation incidents or hoaxes in Japan 1945 are alive today, because they are part of your textbook. So your children are learning that content and they get good grades if they can remember from memory. Any Japan citizens publicly questioning the nuclear hoaxes in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 will be arrested by some prosecutor on imaginary charges of all sorts to shut up. Social orders must and is maintained. Education is not very good today, and most Japan citizens just do what they are told to maintain social order. It is the old story since 1905. I think that's the old story since the Roman Empire. Study hard to pass the tests. Or study hard to get along in this world. Yeah? So you got the link here. You
study hard to learn the lies.
Yeah.
You must become a liar just like all the rest of us.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you'll be punished.
Yeah. Media was not in Hiroshima. Censorship was introduced. Yeah. So what outcome would you expect? You got no independent.
That reminds me of, Michael. Remember the United Nations poster with all of the blockheads, and there's this baby with a round head?
Mm-hmm.
That means the baby hasn't been indoctrinated yet. Like all the grown-ups, all the adults. Yeah, we've all been deceived, Michael. You know, that's kind of the hard lesson for all us researchers. You know, it's like that old saying, you know, we're learning today that opinion has everything to do with your whole outlook. So if you don't trust someone's opinion, you know, you run away from it, don't you?
Yeah.
Because, you know, opinions are like beep holes. Everyone's got one.
Yeah, and our opinion does not mean truth. It's just opinion based on what? On facts or on myths, legends, or what else? Or telltale.
Yeah, that's right. And
rumor has it.
You trust someone you don't even know. Yeah. It's like a stranger walking up on the street and saying, blah, 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 blah. you must blah, 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 blah. And then everyone else goes blah, 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 blah. Like the 3 frogs in Revelation. You remember that? The 3 unclean spirits like frogs. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. You get sick of it, don't you, Michael? I get sick of it.
You sound like an old vinyl repeating all over again. There's a scratch in the record.
Yes.
Back to start.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
See that book here from Dr. Michael Palmer, MD, We Breathed the Gases When the Atom Bomb Fell, the evidence that the nuclear bombings were faked with napalm and mustard gas. So that must be a very important book. No, I have not read that book because I'm busy reading so many books, but you have that link here, you have that page here, I'm showing you the page. Yeah, so this is just a flash occurred, and we will go deeper into that research. I will promise you in the next minutes. Yeah, so this is just one source which is doubting the official claims, and that is of course a no-no. Yeah, so he won't get any social credit scores. Yeah, with that page, of course. This page has been used by the new Inquisition, digital Inquisition, to track people, what's going on, what's on their mind, and how much do they know. And according to that, I think that my social credit score level would be an all-time low. Like David Bowie said, have an all-time low in Ashes to Ashes. Yeah, but that's more about the drug abuse. So. Yeah. It's very interesting when you go into this. So how many rats were Hiroshima Nagasaki atom bomb victims opposed to? The explosion only lasted some nanoseconds. Answer is 0. Because no atomic bombs exploded anywhere. It was 1942 and is 2022 propaganda. I don't believe in nuclear radiation. If anyone dies after contact with radioactive material, I think the death is caused by poison. But deadly nuclear radiation was invented 1945 as part of the atomic bomb's hoax and became pseudo-scientific nonsense still around today. Or a tool of the so-called atomists to prove, quote unquote, their theory, their God, Brad. Yeah, so it's just a pure belief system. It is not only pseudoscience. This is, of course, meta-science. The universe is full of radiation. It's gigantic nonsense, and I would, I would follow that path. Yeah, there is no evidence of people who are being exposed to any radioactivity blast. People have been burned, of course, due to excessive heat. They have been killed by the explosion. Yeah, they have been killed by the destroyed houses and things flying around. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, but it's just all. This is official conspiracy. This is official. Doctrine. The International Military Tribunal for the Far East in occupied Japan, with a civil censorship detachment running the country. Running the country. A censorship detachment running the country. So you don't expect the truth, do you? You see, the first thing which dies in war is the truth. So of course you see that if you really believe that, then you really believe there are some supreme countries around the world who are in the possession of so-called atomic bombs, who can destroy the entire planet. So they are bred like gods. Yeah, ye shall be as gods, ye shall destroy the entire earth, and you are capable of blowing all mankind away because you are God. So that's a theory. Yeah, that's a theory that some countries are more potent than others. Yeah, so that's like, it's like a comparison of the size of your peep. Huh? Yeah, because there are some atomic forces in the United Nations who have a right to veto, to be against any resolution, and these are only nations who are officially in the possession of atomic bombs. And it is not Germany. It's very interesting, that article. So you got the link here, but pardon me, can you imagine I can't read all that article here? Yeah. You can't read any articles. You see that we could go 1,000 sessions about that. You have the link here, please read it for yourself. Yeah, and so you really see that's it's a prolific standpoint. So they play also with boogeyman, yeah. So with the North Korea, Kim on, I don't know the name precisely, yeah. As far as my knowledge is, he studied in Switzerland. Yeah, why does a North Korean leader studies in Switzerland? Yeah, and he's the big boogeyman now since Saddam Hussein officially has been killed, and Muammar Gaddafi from Libya officially had been killed, and Osama bin Laden officially had been killed. They need another boogeyman, and now it's Kim from North Korea, because he's got the atomic weapon. He can blow out the entire planet. He's the ultimate threat, and he's the reason why the United States needs to have so much bases and aircraft carriers around that region in Asia. It's only about the atomic bomb power of North Korea. Yeah, that's like a Sandman story, or like a story from a fairy tale or a fairy or something like that. Yeah, that you really believe that. You see that since 1945, officially now 77 years, many states have got atomic arsenal, nuclear weapons, and unto this very day, not one of them, single-handed, has been dropped somewhere by accident or on purpose. Yeah, what a miracle, Brad!
Right. Yeah, that's right. And neither have we had any power loss from the supposed, what do they call this again now, this nuke that they can blow up in the atmosphere and cause electrical
EMP, electrical magnetic pulse.
Electromagnetic pulse.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's, as far as I know, it's never happened, has it?
No, but sure, they can interfere the atmosphere. I talked about it in German on a small 20-minute video last week. They will try to destroy the knowledge in the world by prohibiting you to read books, and to prohibit books, to forbid books, to burn books. And if they succeed with that, of course, it's in first and foremost, it's against the Bible. Then they will try to destroy all the knowledge people got on their computers. You imagine they can create some artifact in the atmosphere, or some other impulse or something like this, that all your hard disk will fail. So just imagine, they would be capable of doing so. Then all the knowledge would be lost, and that's what I recommended to people, is that you try to educate your children and your neighbors about that this information is not been lost, because it's an oral transmitted information that can't be lost so easy.
Oh, here's what's really interesting, Michael. You know this book that I just started getting back into, The Seventh Vial by James A. Wiley?
Mm-hmm.
In this chapter, after the seventh trumpet, actually, no, I think it is the seventh trumpet. We have a really, really horrible picture forming in front of us reading this book, because we're going to have what is proposed by James Aiken Wiley. And I'm not saying that this is true. It's just part of the book. It's going to be an era of great agitation. And, what do the Jesuits do? They agitate everyone. Like, the entire United States supposedly is on the brink of a civil war, because you have the right versus the left paradigm, and the people just simply don't understand that this is the right and left wings of the Catholic Church that are being agitated, because no one's Protestant anymore in their doctrine, Michael. Their Protestant pastors are teaching them Catholicism. not Protestantism, because Protestantism doesn't exist. No one's going around saying the Pope is the man of sin and he lives in the office of the Antichrist over in Rome. No one says that anymore. So guess what? They have free reign to do as thou wilt. And yeah, our pastors and preachers don't teach anything about true eschatology because to them it's all false. All of what the reformers did and everything is false to them. And, they've completely destroyed the faith. And that's why they're so terrified of their own history. And they'll never speak a word about it because they're terrified of it. They're horrified by their own selves. They can't even look at their true history. How pathetic. But that's the day and age we live in. We just have to swallow that and deal with it because, what are we going to do? We're supposed to live through this. We're not supposed to just give up on it. So we have all of these horrible things, rhetorical things, agitating everyone, and everyone is getting so upset with each other that they can't even hold a conversation anymore. They can't even talk to one another anymore. Yeah. It's horrible, really. It's horrible what's going on. And, I'm just trying to, really wrap my brain around this last chapter I just read on the seventh vial. But I think it's interesting because this is the seventh trumpet, and it's the wrath of the nations, the time of the dead that they should be judged, and the opening of the temple of God in heaven, accompanied by lightnings, voices, thunderings, and an earthquake. Okay, so basically, this is the book of Revelation going through chapters 13, 14, and I think into 15, if I'm not mistaken. And that's kind of where this is at, but I think it actually is intersecting with what you're saying, Michael, because the times that we're coming into now are going to be of great agitation, and people are going to take out their frustrations on God and the civil power, both at the same time. That's what he's proposing in this book. It seems to make perfect sense to me that that's what's happening now, is because, when you lock down the whole world over this so-called disease, then, you're going to have agitation. Not just a little agitation. We're looking at all the markets being agitated. This is guerrilla warfare of a whole new kind. A whole new kind that men and women are totally unprepared for. Just completely taken in their way of life. And it's really quite horrific, actually, Michael.
Yeah, right. You see that the entire system is rigged on lies. That's the problem. Yeah, so many people are falling for lies because they don't care for the truth. Only if you are in the spirit of the Holy Spirit, then you are really about the truth. Then you're really keen on the truth. But the many people, they are just they're feeling uncomfortable because it spoils their life. Actually, so much truth. They can't cope with it.
Yeah,
can't cope with it.
True.
Yeah. So they don't protest because they only want to be left alone and they want to have a decent life with all the profit of it. Yeah. So you are very well accompanied and you have a high social status and all the things.
Yeah, it's vanity, Michael.
It's vanity, yeah. Yeah,
it really is. It's simply just vanity.
Yeah, look at these horrors here of the atomic devastation here. And look at the horrors here, Brett. Yeah, this is terrifying people. And they say, oh yeah, if that would happen. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so that was the main threat in the Cold War between the Western Allies and the Eastern Bloc. Yeah, when it comes down to more than 40 years now, that there would be an atomic threat, there would be a total devastation, and everything will be killed because they got weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, that's right. That's really a reality. That's true.
Yeah. So it's unreal. I don't know how the camera could survive, Brett.
Yeah.
How could the film be survived to get all this radiation? Yeah. How could it survive? How could it survive? But it's not up to me, you see. I did not invent it, yeah? You see, out of a sudden, the car has been dropped.
Yeah. Where did the cars go?
Where did the cars go, yeah? And now you see some wooden house or something like this, I don't know. Yeah. But I think in 1950 that was sufficient to scare the hell out of people. Yeah. I think that's sufficient to show, yeah. Right. So back to the script, yeah, but you see that media was not there, censorship was introduced. Yeah, sure. For what reason? Yeah. For the reason that no atomic bombs have ever exploded anywhere, nobody has died of radiation from them. Sure, if there are no atomic bombs who have exploded, then nobody has been dying from their radiation. Hypothetically.
Yeah. Hypothetically.
Yeah.
You have to prove it, yeah.
Yeah. Right. The mission of the Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory. Yeah. National security. So they don't need to tell you the truth. It's like in the JFK assassination when the head of the Secret Service was being asked and he said, oh, can we go off the record?
Yeah, that's right. Is
that hilarious that even they don't tell you the truth because it is a matter of national security. So it is a matter of national security that all the nations outside the United States are being in terror, being terrified by the United States, by their high potential threat and arsenal of nuclear weapons. Of course, that's a benefit for the United States military system.
Mm-hmm. The beast system.
Yeah.
More or less. I mean, it's the Roman beast. You just can't tell anyone that because they can't handle it.
Yeah. In 1943, in October, construction began on a revolutionary plutonium production reactor in Hanford. The B reactor, as it came to known, was completed in March 1945 and began producing plutonium for the explosion-type atomic bomb that destroyed Nagasaki August 1945. Was plutonium dangerous for humans? The first human plutonium injection occurred on April the 10th of 1945. But do not worry, no plutonium was used anywhere for anything. It was and just is today propaganda. As a federally funded research and development center, the Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory develops its fake strategic plans with priorities set by the U.S. Department of Energy, the National Nuclear Security Administration, and key relevant national strategy guidance documents such as the Nuclear Posture Review, the National Security Strategy, the Blueprint for a Secure Energy Future, and similar U.S. propaganda. Yeah, that's all propaganda. Yeah, the Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory is just a big joke since 1943. Actually, the whole town Los Alamos is BS. Yeah, very interesting when I saw that picture here. Maybe you would like to go into this, dear listener. This is the Los Alamos Project main gate. Passes must be presented to guards. So, 1,000 of scientists and engineers worked at Los Alamos 1943 and had to pass this little gate daily. I think they had to exchange the door also daily. Quietsch, 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 quietsch. Yeah. come on, really, this is this is all been in Ephesians 5:11, the unfruitful works of darkness. Yeah, they are putting out lies and lies and lies and lies and lies. Yeah, and people believe it. If you then look behind the curtain, you see that there is no substance. Yeah, there is no substance. There is until now. They have done officially these atom bombs, one in the desert. Terrifying, scaring and threatening and putting people of the military in danger. So why should they do that New Mexico bomb test from the Manhattan Project and endanger thousands of civilians? And then they did it secretly on bikini atolls and etc. Yeah, and then the only one who were affected about this radiation test and this so-called nuclear blast were some people on a fisher boat with the name of Dragon 5. Oh, my. Yeah. Yeah, so he says it's all propaganda, and up to this very day, I would say, okay, that seems real. Yeah, Kim Jong-un. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know how many politicians believe in that, but that's not my point. My point is that they cannot prove it. Yeah, they can't prove it. You don't see it in Hiroshima, you don't see it in Nagasaki, you don't see it in New Mexico, you don't see it at the Bikini Atoll, you don't see it everywhere. No atomic bomb has been dropped yet. Yeah. So that is very interesting. It goes on and on and on. Huh? How does atomic bomb work? So I can only recommend you to that article here, hivaco.tree.com, bomb part 1 to 6, I think it was. It's hilarious. It's very, very, very interesting. Yeah, but it's just a small part of the script today. So let's move on, because that is just the copy and paste article from one certain page. Yeah. So imagine how these priests are even blessing these atomic bombs. And that Catholic priest, which is not him, because that seems to be an Orthodox priest who is now being blessing here some missiles on most likely here Soviet Union or Russian aircraft. Yeah, they are blessing. Yeah, you see, they are really blessing missiles who are killing people. They are supposed to kill. Yeah, missiles. What a strange world that nobody sees that is here absolutely against God's law. Yeah? So officially there was a Catholic priest who blessed the atomic bomb who repented later in life. Oh. Quote, all I can say today is that I was wrong. Christ would not be the instrument to unleash such horror on his people. Yeah, he was also not the instrument to lie to his people. Yeah, so even in that repentance here, Brad, there is a lie. Yeah, so Pater George Zabelka was an American Catholic priest of Austrian origin, or not an Austrian again, like Hitler. And like many young men of his generation, he enlisted as a chaplain in defense of his country during World War II. His mission was to spiritually accompany the near 2,000 men of the 509's group, the unit trained to drop the atomic bomb on Japan. When he learned that the two bombs, Little Boy and Fat Man, had killed hundreds of thousands of civilians, he was very sorry, but still thought that his boy had done the right thing to end that war once and for all. But that did not end the war, these so-called atomic bombs. My. Yeah, so he was repentant then. Yep. Now look at this sentence here. Frater Zabelka's convictions began to crack when he learned that one of the bombs had been dropped on Nagasaki, Japan's most Catholic city. Interesting, huh? The young priest realized that he had sent his Catholic boys to murder other Catholics. Oh, well, really? Is that surprising, huh? Is that surprising? Ah, an Irish Catholic pilot. Yeah, sure. All the good Catholics are coming from Ireland in your country, huh? Except Kennedy, huh? Kennedy being the exception here. Yeah. He says, dropped the bomb on Urakami Cathedral in Nagasaki, the center of Catholicism in Japan. I knew that Saint Francis Xavier, S.J., centuries before, had brought the Catholic faith to Japan.
Francis Xavier, yeah.
Yeah, that is utterly wrong because he was
the co-founder of the Jesuit
Yeah,
order.
that's what I meant. Yeah, you see, he didn't bring Catholic faith to Japan. He brought Jesuits to Japan.
Well, you got to look at it this way. The Jesuits run the Catholic Church, so in a sense, he's right.
Yeah, in a sense, sure. Yeah, but I want to have it more precise to the point. Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that.
Mm-hmm.
No, of course not.
Yeah, so he did not return to the United States. He remained a chaplain in Japan and la 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 la. Yeah. Then
it all comes down to how you research, Michael.
Yeah.
It really does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we are just beginning to look behind the curtain here, huh? Yeah, so it is very interesting that these bombs were being blessed to kill people. Ow, 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 to end the war. Oh, what a look this, Yeah, but you see that if Nagasaki is being the Roman Catholic main capital city in Japan, then I'm not surprised that I found a wooden statue of Mary in Nagasaki, huh? Not surprisingly, Brad. So that was the bomb, or that was the blessing of the bomb. Yeah. Father George the Belka, Catholic chaplain with the United States Air Force, served as a priest for the airmen who dropped the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August and gave them his blessing. Yeah. What a priest. Mm-hmm. And so that was the official story, but what is the other official story? When he said I was brainwashed, then that means that if I will have to believe him, Brad, then I'd say that he can only claim that he was brainwashed if he would step out the Roman Catholic Church. Because if he remains in a Roman Catholic Church, he is still brainwashed. But that's just my 2 cents, huh? Yeah, he worked also with Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, what a coincidence. What a coincidence with all the Jesuits here, huh? Remember, he was mentioning Francis Xavier. He was not mentioning Roman Catholic bystander. He was mentioning the co-founder of the Jesuitical order. In war ethics, Jesus Christ, who is supposed to be all in the Christian life, is irrelevant. Yeah. My. Oh, I think that if I would go to that article with Jörg, I would have to do 3 more sessions, so that I will try to skip it. Yeah, so this is Hiroshima, Japan, atomic bomb aftermath. What do you see? Extreme disastrous force blowing out every building or what? Yeah, you see some buildings are still standing, so what kind of a blast? No. You see that I would go into this napalm theory. Yeah, that I think that is much more likely. Trident submarine base. Yeah, why don't you call it hell, huh? Oh, my. Yeah.
Well, that's essentially what's going is the operation of bringing hell on earth. Yeah, the mission.
Yeah, that's not Christ. That's the counterpart of Christ.
Yeah, that's
the adversary. Yeah, thought that I would look upon priests blessing bombs. Yeah, what do you see?
Yeah, those who hate me love death.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, spot on. Thank you.
How much simpler can it be?
Yeah. The Russian Orthodox Church may stop blessing nuclear weapons. Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. My, oh my, what a world. What a world. Yeah, you see that Cardinal Spellman, the so-called American Pope, yeah, the former protege of John F. Kennedy, was being mentioned Cardinal War because he was blessing tanks in Vietnam. My. But of course, you can censor all the things when you got a civil censorship department. Then really people think, oh yeah, that is I'm on the right in the right church. But these are instruments of death. Okay, let's proceed. TheConversation.com, the little known history of secrecy and censorship in wake of atomic bombings. Yeah. So, 11th of August 1945, this is very fresh after the 6th August. This is 5 days after the dropping of the bomb in Hiroshima. Yeah. Censors may pass material dealing with atom bomb and military use of atomic energy within bounds of official release only. If that is an original document, of course. Yeah, but that's my point. You see that don't trust anybody who has got that much amount of secrets. Significant aspects of that bombing are still not well known. I found that military and civilian officials in the United States sought to contain information about the effects of radiation from the blasts, which helps explain the persistent gaps in the public's understanding of radiation from the bombings. That is the special chaplain who later regretted to have blasted the bomb. Yeah. But for years, radiation remained the least publicized and least understood of the atomic bomb effects. Yeah, sure, if there is none. If there is not any. American officials confiscated Japanese reports, medical case notes, biopsy slides, medical photographs and films and sent them to the United States, where much remained classified for years, some for decades. The censorship of the Japanese began quickly. As soon as Japanese physicians and scientists reached Hiroshima after the bombing, they collected evidence and studied the mysterious symptoms in the ill and dying. Yeah, remember that Hiroshima had about 250,000 of inhabitants in 1945, and to this very day 1.2 million, so the radiation must be devastating. That is a funny, yeah, quote unquote, that is just strange. A Navy photographer takes a picture of a Japanese soldier walking amid the ruins of Hiroshima. Yeah. Without any protection, of course, huh?
Michael, you remember this this quote that comes from this national security advisor?
Yeah.
It goes something like, "We'll know our disinformation campaign is complete. Everything the American public believes is false."
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
It just, this, going into this just really, really starts to make that become more clear and more clear how indoctrinated we've become.
It's the same scheme. That is the most interesting information. It's the same scheme that occurred with the Cold War, which occurred with the so-called moonwalk of Mr. Neil Armstrong, not Michael Jackson, but Neil Armstrong.
Right.
Yeah, right. And with all so many other artifacts which are still not true, like New York on a September day 21 years ago. Yeah, so that is the same. This is just fear-mongering. These are psyops. US officials did not think that US troops would be endangered by exposure to residual radiation, but the concept of radiological weapons and uncertainty created fear. Yeah, and that was the sole purpose of these actions from the United States. I don't doubt they have dropped a bomb. I don't doubt that for 1 minute. What I doubt is the content and the nuclear arsenal and all the things. Yeah, photograph taken at the Roman Catholic Church in Nagasaki. What a coincidence. Huh? So this is official photo. That is what you shall see. Yeah? Oh, devastation and destruction. And you see, what is that others as burnt skin? And that can occur by napalm, believe me. You can ask the people in Hamburg 1943 and in Dresden 1945. You don't even have to go to Japan to realize that the English bombers and the Americans had these special bombs containing fuel. Yeah, to spread wildfire, to erase entire forests, to get rid of the trees, to see more clearly all the soldiers and the troops and cars and everything else, which they later did in Vietnam War. An additional explanation for the censorship of information pertaining to radiation is that US officials did not want the new weapon to be associated with radiological or chemical warfare, both of which were expanding in scope and founding after the war. Those associated with the atomic bomb wanted it to be viewed as a powerful but regular military weapon, a traditional combat bomb. Yeah, sure. Yeah. The results of the radiation censorship campaign have been hard to pin down, both because of the nature of the silencing itself and because knowledge leaked into public awareness in many ways and forms. Yeah, so you play both sides, huh? Censorship about the radiation deaths and sickness from the atomic bombs in Japan was never, of course, entirely successful. Yeah, of course it is not entirely successful, but it's so successful that it is still in the textbooks, that your children are been handed over in the school and they get good grades for repeating it over and over again. Historians have described the Americans' public reactions to Hiroshima as muted ambivalence and psychic numbing. Yeah, this is a psyop. Yeah, this is very interesting, yeah, because you see that this just... It's true that an atomic bomb had never been used against the civil population. No, that's not true. Officially, it has been used against the civilian population of Hiroshima, at least. Yeah. 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 To reinforce the effect of the committee report, a petition on similar lines was signed by 64 scientists, including Einstein, associated with the metallurgical project, to be sent directly to President Truman to persuade him not to use the bomb against the civilian population. The fact that this report has been sent to President Truman before August the 6th, so the date they have been dropped officially, the bomb to Hiroshima, although not received, was perhaps the reason why Leslie Groves excised the use of the word radiation from his own description of the effects of the bombing. He maintained that people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki had been killed by blast and heat alone. In his 2007 book, Savage Perils, Racial Frontiers and the Nuclear Apocalypse in American Culture, he writes, quote, General Groves continued to dismiss the impact of lingering radiation during his testimony before the Senate Special Committee on Atomic Energy on 25th and 26th of November 1945. Before General Groves continued with his comments, Senator Brian McMahon, the chair of the committee, interrupted to question if there would be, quote-unquote, anything morally wrong if the atomic bomb did leave lingering radiation. General Groves dismissed radiation as a major cause of death at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah, and so that is also been mentioned in that book on this chapter, yes, survival of the whitest. Hiroshima, Japan reports have been played on the US conscience with reports of weird, agonized deaths of civilians who had appeared untouched by the explosion. It wasn't long before radiation was cited as the source of the mysterious illness that had killed seemingly uninjured survivors weeks after the blast. An article in the September 24 issue of Life magazine, Henry Luce, Sovereign Military Night of Malta, by the way, what I remember from the Kennedy sessions here, Life magazine, entitled New Mexico's Atomic Bomb Crater, reported that, quote, the Japanese hinted strongly that parts of Hiroshima and Nagasaki had become radioactive. Rescue workers who came into the cities sometime later, the Japanese reported, were killed by harmful radiations, unquote. These reports were denounced by some members of the military, most notably by General Leslie Groves, the military head of the Manhattan Project, as unsubstantiated Japanese propaganda designed to manipulate world opinion and generate sympathy for the defeated Japanese people. Oh, you see, this is a psychic war from left to right here. At the request of the White House, General Groves and lead Manhattan Project scientist J. Robert Oppenheimer, you know that he has made a famous quote of the Bhagavad Gita, now I become death, the destroyer of nations. That's from a holy Asian book, religion book. Oppenheimer led a group of reporters through the Trinity, Catholic Trinity, test site crater in New Mexico to demonstrate that lingering radioactivity couldn't kill humans as the Japanese claimed. The article in Life noted that, quote, the New Mexico crater was still definitely radioactive. It nevertheless offered strong evidence that the Japs, so the Japanese, were wrong. The ambivalence in this article indicated the growing skepticism that many were feeling toward the official narrative of the atomic bomb. The reporter was still willing to accept the argument of General Groves and the War Department, which said that, quote, most of the Japanese had been killed by blast and heat, unquote. He was also willing to accept the argument that, quote, a few may have died of radioactive effects suffered at the instant of the explosions, but none died from radioactivity afterward, unquote. Yet the facts of the matter, such as the safety precautions the reporters had to go through to protect themselves from the lingering radiation, seem to contradict the official narrative and leave the reporters wondering if they were getting the whole truth. General Groves continues to dismiss the impact of lingering radiation during his testimony before the Senate Special Committee on Atomic Energy on 25th and 26th November 1945. General Groves had grounding in individual experience and therefore read much like a medical textbook. The suffering of the victims was still excluded in favor of the objective voice of scientific authority. You see, it goes on and on and on, but you won't find the truth unless you will find the Bible. And do you really think that our Father in heaven has created such devastation in the hands of people that people would be able to destroy his creation, Brett? I don't think so.
Well, there's a conflict there because the Bible does say power and authority has been given to the beast, right?
Yeah.
So there's a conflict there.
I can ask the question a little bit more subtle or maybe more precise. We know that the earth will be destroyed by fire, but it will be destroyed according to God's will. And at the end of days, and not at the will of some dictator.
That's correct.
That's what I meant.
But what they're trying to do is instill us with the fear of man playing as God. So you have the man of sin playing his part in this world to induce all the rulers of the world, because remember Psalms chapter 2, everyone, you know, that they're all working together, and their work is against the Lord and his anointed. So that's the most precious of the Lord's people, okay? The most precious. So this isn't a joke. Very serious.
You can summarize all these effects on the nuclear threat as been kind of a fear-mongering. Yeah,
yes,
it's been displayed far worse than it actually is. It's the same as the situation in 2022.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah?
Correct.
Because they are classifying information. They have a censorship department in Japan. So what do you expect? Why do you need a censorship department? Yeah, of course, to hide the truth, to censor the truth. Yeah, so these people are lying. Otherwise, you don't need any censorship. Yeah? So that is U.S. government classified information from Japan. Yeah, so this is all Secret Service here. This is, of course, it's a military operation.
Well, yeah, and then you get an idea how wicked our whole entire society is, even right down to the dollar itself.
Yeah.
It's a debt note. It's debt. It's not even real value at all. It's a negative value. So how can you give positive artifacts with something in exchange for negative value? It just doesn't make any sense at all. But that's what we live under.
Yeah. That's terrible times, but let's proceed. You see that officially they claim that these atomic bomb droppings on Hiroshima and Nagasaki had ended the war, and I have quite another answer to that. So Let's look it up. So this is the bombing of Dresden, aerial bombing. Heavy bombers, British and United States combined. That's what I said 1 hour ago or so. Dropped 3,900 tons of high explosive bombs and incendiary devices on the city. The bombing and the resulting firestorm. Yeah, so that's my point. Destroyed more than 1,600 acres. An estimated 22,000 to 725,000 people were killed. And then if you know that Dresden was containing about near to 1 million people at the time, yeah, but you see that that big area was devastated, was destroyed here, yeah, and just 20,000 people killed. Yeah, sure, you have to believe it, huh? This is official
and you're
writing
laughing
here.
Because that number is way too small.
Yeah, sure it is, but you can't.
Would you say 10 times more?
You can't question the official narrative in Germany. They will accuse you directly of pro-Nazi, yeah, because you make propaganda for them.
That's what they do.
There are even laws here that you can't question other events in the Second World War. You can't question them because you then will be guilty without having any counsel. Yeah. Yeah, so the censorship also is not only limited to Japan for the Second World War events. It's also limited. It's also happening in Germany until this very day. I can't talk about certain things in the Second World War, and some of the harmless things would be the bombing of Dresden.
You can't talk about it.
You can't talk about it. I can't question the official number, yeah? Yeah, because they accuse you of being far...
There are laws in place, so if you were caught talking about it, you could be punished.
Yeah. Yeah, the number that I have seen in articles, and I have a dictionary on myself, is close to 250,000 people. Yeah, but you won't find that in on these search engines anymore. I think it's all been censored, people. It's all been censored. So internet is a great thing, yeah, but it will be limited more and more and more and more and more. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you see here in just an alternative page in Germany, you see 200,000, 25,000 dead. Yeah, total means dead ones. Yeah, 225,000. Yeah, have been officially erased in Germany. Erased. Yeah. At least 250,000. The International Red Cross. Yeah, in Geneva, in Switzerland, they had published an article. It undoubtful been mentioned that at least 250,000 people were killed in this illegal attack of the Allies, because illegal means that it was absolutely known that there only were refugees in Dresden at that time. That was not a military base or something else. And not an infrastructure, not any big factories or so. They're just all the pure refugees coming from the east, fleeing from the Red Army, which were encircling Berlin quite later. That was in spring, in February 1945, and the war ended officially on the 8th of May 1945. Yeah, phosphor bombs. Yeah, phosphor bombs has been stated here. Yeah, there are German politicians who said that, okay, do it again, Bomber Harris. Yeah, so come again and destroy the people of Dresden. These are official German politicians. Do it again, Bomber Harris, which is, of course, a bomber pilot from the Second World War. Do it again, Bomber Harris. And these people get along with that because they have political immunity. Yeah, it's hard to understand, but there are many, yeah, there are many people who really love death. They really love death. Yeah, there are many people and many German politicians who want the German people to be erased. Yeah, Bomber Harris, do it again. Yeah, can you imagine? These are German people here who have not, of course, they have not fought in the war because they are much too young. Ah. So it's a mess here in Germany, actually, I can tell you. Yeah, it's a total mess here. Yeah. Bomber Harris, do it again. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. What else shall I say? That I'm ashamed for my German people, because in former times we were a country full of poets and people with knowledge. Yeah, Goethe, Lessing, Schiller. Yeah, but
well, here's the deal. We have the contrast of these prophecies of the book of Revelation. And when they're exceeding dreadful, this is nothing to mince words with. This era that's coming, we're going to have to endure through the 7 last plagues of the book of Revelation.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm just entering into now that I've read this chapter on the 7th trumpet. And that's kind of where I want to get down. Let me just quick read something from here. It works really well to explain this a little bit. The voices in heaven which spoke in heaven announced that as the first consequence of the sounding of the trumpet, the conversion of the kingdoms, and that is the Roman earth, quote, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, unquote. This foretells a radical change awaiting the kingdoms of Europe, a change as great as that which passed on Nebuchadnezzar when at the end of the days, his understanding returned, and he lifted up his eyes to heaven and blessed the Most High. Like their prototype, these kingdoms have long been smitten with the mad rage and ferocious cruelty of the wild beast. They have labored under a moral and political madness, but at the end of the days their reason shall return, and they shall praise and honor him that liveth forever. The Roman element which Justinian breathed into them, remember Justinian now is the one who gave the Roman law in, what was it, 530 something or 520, 30, somewhere in there.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, the Roman element which Justinian breathed into them shall become extinct. New principles shall guide their policy. Can we say biblical principles shall guide their policy, even those of the Word of God. Their wealth and their power shall be devoted to higher objects, the true happiness of their subjects. And whereas they have been bulwarks and fences of superstition, they shall come to account it their glory to subserve the interests of God. But first, they must pass through that period of convulsion foretold by Daniel under the symbol of the breaking in pieces of the image. Quote, and the nations were angry, unquote. This implies that the period of the 7th angel, the nations of the Roman world will become exceedingly exasperated. And I do believe that's what we're experiencing with all these wars. And Europe is just the epicenter of it, Michael.
Yeah, and
right where you live.
Matthew 24, you have the mentioning of wars, and rumors of wars.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could continue, but you can go listen to that reading of the 7th trumpet at the end of that session I did last time. But I didn't do any discussion. But I think it's really interesting you bring up Dresden, because I know so little about that subject. from that point of view that you have, Michael, and that maybe Yerk has too. I know so very little about it, and I'm really interested to learn more.
Yeah, you see that it's really a mess here. You see that German politician called Julia Schramm, for example. She was once a member of the Pirate Party, and now is member of the lefts. Yeah, so leftists, of course, left. No? Left is Satan. Huh? Left side, Jesus Christ is on the right side of God, and who's on the left side? Yeah, and she's working for the anti-hate agenda of Amateo Amadonio's Stiftung, yeah, against hate speech.
Oh,
yeah.
So the replacement for hate, huh?
Yeah, and she says here sauerkraut, Kartoffelbrei, which is potato sausage. Yeah, Bomber Harris, fire again. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, all against the German people. So that
could we say Jesuit coadjutor, Michael?
The killing of German innocent people. There were many mothers and children, and also there's a German woman called Julia Schramm who really accepts and demands the killing of innocent people. Yeah, and these people have been voted. These people have immunity. These people are official politicians in Germany. That's the woman here. Yeah, Julia Schramm.
Yeah. How disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, where shall I start? These people are just our society is so left. Yeah, so full of everything.
Liberal. Yeah, liberal.
Yeah, everything is possible. But you see that she is really
liberal in the worst sense, let's say.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, sorry. I don't want to promote that.
This is not liberty in Christ, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a video of her when she was not quite well in shape. Yeah, so that she's jiggling and you can't hear her voice, but and it seems to be that she is kind of drugged or so. Yeah. Oh, great! Now it's not working because the computer is overload of information here. Oh my. Yeah, but these are young girls really who say that, oh yeah, Bomber Harris, please come again. Yeah, please come again. Bomber Harris, do it again. Yeah, and they're now sitting in the parliament in Germany. Oh.
Yeah, how much she getting paid too?
Yeah, so the bombing of Dresden, Firestorm. You see that Firestorm is about the burning city and burning people.
Good money. No, that's not good.
So and the things is there are interesting books about 5 myths about nuclear so-called weapons. Yeah, so that is just that you don't know what's up with it because you don't have any proof. You see that you can't explode some atomic weapon to look what's what. Yeah. But that's a thing that actually many people are now doubting the existence, but it worked for 40, 50 years, Brett. It worked. That threat worked. It's the same as the actual situation. At the moment, it works for the majority of people.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Course,
yeah, so the end of the war cannot be related to the atomic bombing of Nagasaki on August because the news from Nagasaki only arrives when they are already sitting together and discussing the surrender. Hiroshima is probably not the reason either because the atomic bomb was dropped there 3 days earlier. In such an event, the reaction usually comes faster. But and now listen very carefully, the Soviet declaration of war had come at midnight. In other words, about 10 hours before the meeting and deliberation on surrender. Speaking of the Japanese. From the timing alone, it looks like the Soviets were the cause. Yeah? So the Soviets declared war on Japan. And therefore, Japan surrendered. And not for the so-called atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That is a very key thing to learn, that also your government plays tricks on you, and it seems to be more potent and powerful than it actually is or was. Yeah, so that's it. The timing on Monday the 6th, the atomic bomb or something like that falls on Hiroshima. Yeah, Nagasaki on August the 9th. Yeah, but Japan surrenders for the Soviet denunciation. Yeah, they had a pact on April the 5th, denounced the pact with Japan. The pact with Japan, pact is always negative content, by informing the Japanese government that in accordance with Article 3 of the above-mentioned pact, which envisaged the right of denunciation 1 year before the lapse of the 5-year period, blah, 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 blah. On August the 9th, just after midnight in Manchuria, the Soviets invaded Manchuria. The declaration of war against Japan followed nearly 6 hours later. Because of the time zone difference of 7 hours, the declaration of war could be still dated August 8 for the time zone difference, and was presented to the Japanese ambassador in Moscow at 11 o'clock p.m. Moscow time. Interesting. Boing. Okay, so that most likely was then the official solution for the Japanese empire, or the emperor itself, to say, okay, that's enough. If now the Soviets also are moving against us, we can't win the war. So it was the declaration of war from the Soviets which ended the Second World War, or ended the war in Japan, and not the official atomic bombs. I didn't know that before.
What? That is so twisted.
No, that is not twisted when you know that there is some key player behind the USA and Soviets who's playing both sides. But the American government claims to strike Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end the war. You see, remember the Roman Catholic priest before who said, I will bless the bombs to end the war.
Right.
Yeah? But it was the Soviets, the Soviet declaration of war against Japan, which ended the war.
Oh.
Ta-ta. Yeah. Japan's foreign minister Mamoru Shigemitsu is signing on the 2nd of September 1945 the capitulation document. The land was capitulation not because of the atom bombs, this source claims. And I find it much more likely than if you got a second big enemy on a small state like Japan with what do they have, 100 plus million inhabitants, yeah, not only against the United States but then also against the Soviet Union. Yeah, you can't win the war on both fronts or against two of that big enemies. And that's my point. Yeah, it's much more likely from their common sense that the declaration of war from the Soviets ended the Second World War, or the war with Japan in general, than these so-called nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah, so that was not that devastating strike that the Americans did. That was just pure propaganda to say that, oh no, we are the most powerful nation and the most potent. We got the A-bomb. Yeah, that's just pure propaganda. It's war propaganda. Everybody was saying, we Germans, we are great that we have surrendered in May 1945, which of course was a good thing. But, and it's a big but, we had more than 1 million soldiers been starving to death on the Rhine areas, which nobody is even dare to talk about it in German. Yeah, which was due to the American, to the captivity through the Americans. So many American soldiers or generals and politics, they have killed hundreds of thousands of German soldiers because they did not feed them.
Right.
Yeah. Other losses. There's an interesting book called Other Losses. Yeah. So, but this is just very interesting when you know that the Soviets entered the war and then Japan could not win the war, of course. Yeah. So that is very interesting. Yeah, it is very interesting. Yeah, that it was not that little boy and fat man and all the things. Yeah. So it is much more of a propaganda threat. It's like Godzilla, who has this atomic breath. Yeah, and it's just the leftism here been indicated on the left eye, yeah, or the left hand path. Yeah, it's just Godzilla, the king of monsters. It's just the survival of the fittest. And if you got then the most potent bomb spread, then you are the most powerful nations. And all we school children, we thought that the American were bringing the freedom, and we did not know about the Rhine areas and Rheinwiesenlager and other losses. We did not know about the fake nuclear bombs in Hiroshima. We did not know. We were just being judged about good grades in the school. That's what we all were care for when we were 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. We thought America was great. We liked hamburgers. We liked McDonald's. We liked Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we liked, what else? Ford Mustangs. Yeah, we liked all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we were being taught that the Russians are evil. Yeah, and the Americans are good. Yeah? So that's what we were been fed by the media. We had all these American movies, all these series, The Streets of San Francisco and The Waltons and Star Trek and all the things that it's all been heavily influenced by the Americans. Yeah. So
yeah, more propaganda.
More propaganda, like the God of Zilla, yeah, Godzilla in America, yeah, empowered by nuclear radiation with the nuclear bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the Lucky Dragon 5 shipboat, yeah, and you see that is just propaganda for the younger people. Oh yeah, it's a monster. It's a king of the monster, and he's got atomic breath, so he can destroy everything. Yeah, you see, that is pure propaganda. This is pure propaganda. Yeah, we have gone into that. Yeah, but it's just pure propaganda. It's nothing more and nothing new. Godzilla's atomic heat beam. Yeah, this is exceptionally as real as the nuclear threat, as the nuclear bombs in Hiroshima. Yeah, so is Godzilla's atomic heat beam. Yeah, and so are these actors in the rubber suits. My. This is just a lie on such a big scale. Yeah? Such a big scale. Yeah, red and blue. Yeah, like the colors of, Democrats, Republicans.
Yeah, right.
Or Mars and Jupiter, if you would like to go the occult route. Yeah? Godzilla represented the fears that many Japanese held about the atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the possibility of recurrence. Yeah. Yeah, you see, the main word here is fear. It's fear-mongering. That's it. A monster. Yeah, of course. What do you do with a monster? You fear for your life. And that's what the Japanese and the entire global, so to speak, but there's no globe, but the global civilians should think that, oh yeah, they got the atomic bomb. Yeah, so therefore, the bigger your atomic breath is, the more potent you are. Yeah, so the longer the peep. Huh? Yeah, you see, Godzilla is considered the original radioactive superhero. My. It's all the same. You see, it starts at the age of, 3 or 4 or 5 at the so-called education in the kindergarten or in the television set. Yeah, these are images and idols. Yeah, these are false idols. Yeah, the people really think they were dinosaurs. Yeah, so Godzilla serves certain purposes: fear-mongering, belief in atomic war, belief in dinosaurs, belief in evolution. Of course, we know this is just fiction, but yeah, the majority of people, they do not believe dinosaurs are fiction, and so this serves another purpose here. My. You see, it's just hilarious. And now we got, of course, the transhuman Godzilla. Because now we got no rubber suits anymore. It's all just CGI, and size matters. Yeah, so it's getting bigger and bigger, because also the skyline of Tokyo is getting bigger and bigger. And now some of the latest Godzillas are even as high as the Eiffel Tower. And the problem is that people do not know what Godzilla actually resembles, and they do not know what the Statue of Liberty resembles, and they do not know what the Eiffel Tower resembles, because that is not taught in the school on purpose. Yeah? And now I got a surprise for you. A friend of mine occurred at the weekend. She told me about, do you know that site? It's called the Wetteradler, which is in English would be the weather eagle. Yeah? And they have a number here, a list of patents for weather phenomenons. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And she said, yeah, but it's in English. I said, oh, that does not matter at all. Yeah, because let's have a look. Yeah, let's have a look what's up. And that is here in German table of patterns since 1891. It's a method to create rain in 1891. Yeah, as well as in 1913. Yeah, 1915, a protection for poisonous gas at war. Then you got 1920, a method to create intensively artificial clouds, fog or dust. 1920. Okay. In 1928, a method to create artificial fog. In 1934, an airplane spraying technique. In 1949, an antenna charging method. In 1951, a method to control the weather. And I said, stop. Wasn't there a speech of Lyndon B. Johnson in the University of 1962? He who controls the weather controls the world, Brett?
Yeah. Yeah, you did go over that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I said that I can open it in a new window, and it will be in English. Yeah, so download the PDF. Yeah, inventors called Harvey M. Brandau. Download the PDF. We're speaking about 1951 United States Patent Office process for controlling weather. Oh, and it was so lovely and sunny and hot in Dallas on the 22nd of November 1963, wasn't it, Brett?
Mm-hmm.
So that was been known 12 years before the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Or 11 years before Mr. Lyndon B. Johnson talked about he who controls the weather will control the world. Yeah. So this is not a hoax or something like this. Yeah. This is actually civilian patents here. We're not talking about military things, which are not been for the general public because it's a matter of national security. They won't show up here in that list. Yeah. But let's go further. To create electrical fields in 1959. Or to vaccinate clouds with carbon dioxides in 1960. Or to vaccinate, it's really vaccinate, yeah, impf means vaccinate, yeah, to vaccinate clouds with silver iodide, yeah, silver iodide. Yeah. 1964, the creation of ice creating crystals. 1965, a self-focusing antenna system. Rainmaker in 1969. A method and an apparatus to vaccinate clouds in 1969. Another method of vaccinating clouds in 1970. And we will soon see something from 1987. 1971, method to change the weather. In 1972, apparatus to change the temperature. Yeah, weather, vaccination, once again. Weather modification. A method to spread fog in 1976. Yeah, that's it. That's the patent. 4873928. And now look, please, very carefully. What does that say? United States patents. Nuclear-sized explosions without radiation from the inventor Frank E. Lothar of Texas. A method for producing a high-yield explosion without radioactive fallout, compromising filling an expansible structure with an explosive mixture of a combustible gas, example given methane, and an oxidizer gas, example given oxygen, and then detonating said mixture. We're speaking about a civilian patent here, And once again, the line is nuclear-sized explosions without radiation. Isn't that interesting? So in 1989 it was made officially public that there is a method to create kind of explosions of atomic sizes without any radiation. And you really think that some people did not play tricks on you in 1945 or later on? You see, this is just a random picture that has nothing to do with that patent, yeah. But you see that cloud of smoke which is rising, yeah, can be created by several effects. Yeah, you can have an effect, for example, like something is emitting a certain amount of gas, yeah, and then it sucks the sand in the air to create that kind of a mushroom bread.
Oh, it's extreme heat is what it is, and that heat is rising in that column, and then once it hits enough cool air, it just expands out. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and also you can create some kind of a color effect in it if you just mix it with some chemicals. Yeah, so it's just more or less it looks like Hollywood special effects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's an official patent which I was looking after yesterday. Yeah, this is an official patent. Yeah. So you can look it up. You have the number, yeah, and so that's my point. You see that you can create that kind of images about this so-called atomic bombs. You can create that kind of artifacts even without radiation by using methods of combining several gases, yeah. So that's it. So that does not mean that shape of that mushroom means that it's an atomic explosion. Because now if I try to type in atomic bombs, you see that I get different results every time. I get a white cloud, I get a small cloud, I get an even circular cloud here. So what does convince me that these are all atomic explosions, and what shall convince me nowadays in 2022 that it's not all Photoshop? And by the way, that does not happen for years, huh? We do not get any real pictures or live events or something like that where we could check all the things. So it's a belief system. It's like the atomists. It's just a belief system. And that goes also for, of course, yeah, for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah, yeah. So disclosure of the invention, description of the drawings, schematic section. Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, and now you get the solution of it. Yeah, the miracle of Hiroshima. Jesuits survived the atomic bombs thanks to the rosary.
Talk about propaganda.
Yeah, talk about propaganda. The atomic cloud over Hiroshima. What did we learn? Nuclear-sized explosions without radiations are possible. Not officially, not in 1945. That would be too dangerous. Huh? My history timeline when we spoke about the science as a new religion in former sessions. And for Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I have pointed out here that in the year 1519, Jesuits have been killed in Nagasaki. Yeah? What a coincidence. Payback time had now come for Japan. The American Army Air Force firebombed the island and totally destroyed Nagasaki and Hiroshima. The future Jesuit general Pedro Arrupe was near Hiroshima at the time of its destruction. Could he and his Jesuits have been involved in a nuclear detonation on the ground, as no testing atomic device had ever been detonated in the air while in motion? At 8:50 that August morning, every window in Arrupe's residence in Nagutska was shattering by a roaring shockwave, and the sky was filled with a light he later described as a gigantic flare like a magnesium flash. Being overwhelmed and baleful, by the time he and his community of Jesuits ventured out some 30 minutes later, a firestorm Yeah? Remember Dresden, Brett? Firestorm, driven by a scorching 40 miles per hour wind, had enveloped Hiroshima. That evening, one of the first survivors to reach his house in Nagutska was a theological student sent by a fellow priest, Father Wilhelm Kleinsorge, who had somehow survived the blast in the middle of Hiroshima. From him, Arupe got his first eyewitness accounts. Whether the atomic bomb detonated in mid-air, a technical feat unknown to human history as of August 1945, or secretly on the ground, that remains their secret. Yeah? And in 1639, Jesuits were exiled in Nagasaki, Japan, after Shimabara revolt by Catholic peasants. Yeah. Of course, you know.
The Catholics got rid of the Jesuits, huh? Gee,
You know,
I wonder why.
You know what kind of script that is coming from, huh? I could not avoid it, but it's just from EJP, huh?
Okay, no,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, okay, so but that was the hint about the detonation in air also, yeah, which I have found it nowhere else but in his book, yeah. But you see that the other things are very interesting, that the Jesuits were expelled from Japan, yeah. And if my memory serves me correct, then they were even been killed in both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So the Jesuits were out for revenge. So they were not. It was not happening by incidents. By Father John A. Siemens, professor of modern philosophy at Tokyo's Catholic University. Yeah, and they speak about that. Yeah, they were praying the Rosary and like a miracle in that monastery where the Jesuits were residing. Yeah, so it was a devastating effect, the atomic bomb, but miraculously the Jesuits were saved. Yeah, they were praying the Rosary. Sure, it's a pagan idolatry. Yeah, yeah. You can go into this your entire life. It's very interesting to go into this, but don't expect to get the truth, because if you once and foremost know that all the governments of the world are being controlled by the church in Rome, yeah, and they're out to scare you. Yeah, that people really shit in their pee, so that they really follow their governments to protect them. So you have to create a big fear, and then big government comes out to rescue you, but only if you follow all orders without any complaints. Yeah, is that sound familiar to you with 2022? Yeah. Burn people, yeah, of course, burn people. Yeah, we know that. It was Arupe selling like magnesium and like a firestorm and like Dresden and like napalm. You see, there are many, many, many things happening in Hiroshima that night. It's really easy when you really know that you have been betrayed your entire life. Yeah, you have been. Where is napalm here? You have been betrayed all your life. With all this false news. Yeah, napalm bombs intensified. Yeah. Yeah. Napalm and mustard gas. Why we breathe the gases when the atomic bomb fell. A war, sure, they were out for death. Yeah. And I know there were eyewitnesses who claimed that there were bombings happening that night in Hiroshima, which would explain all the devastation in the city, of course. Yeah. So,
Okay.
You see, Brett, they claim that the miracle of Hiroshima just only happens because that the Jesuits survived due to the power of the Rosary. Huh? Yeah, so that was the script that I was just pointing out, and I found another article, or a PDF actually, which is about that certain rosary in Hiroshima. Yeah, from the Sacred Heart University. They promote the Rosary of Hiroshima, the Blue Army of Our Lady of Fatima, and that is connected to both their sessions of the Atom Science series. Yeah, I find that very interesting, because you see that there are many, many people in every country, every nation. They are promoting Mary also under other names, be it what was it?
Well, when you said Blue Army, I instantly thought of the blue helmets of the United Nations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so they have to say the Mary's Rosary, or Rosary of Hiroshima. That saved them. Yeah, it's unimaginable how deep that goes. that veneration of fertility or veneration of a mother character. You speak also about the Mother Earth, huh?
Right.
You speak of a Mother Earth. Yeah, blue army of you. And that happens constantly when you go into the search strings of Hiroshima and Jesuits. Yeah, then you come up with this, that they only survived because they were so faithful to Mary. Yeah, in union with the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Yeah, where is the Immaculate Heart of Mary in the Bible? Yeah, it can't be found. Yeah, world peace promised by heaven. You see that even they, in relation to Hiroshima,
completely hacking it up, aren't they?
Yeah.
World peace, peace when there is no peace. Jeremiah. Saying peace when there is no peace. Yeah, there isn't any peace here on earth.
Yeah, and so you see that they use all these apparitions, of course, to their benefit. The apparition of Fatima then will be connected to the rosary praying at Hiroshima. Yeah? A new era in a frightful second. Yeah, that's fear-mongering, sure. Yeah, it's just the old legends and myths again. It's just
right.
Rites,
Exactly.
Yeah?
It's just more mythology.
Yeah, even they speak of a perpetual rosary crusade. Yeah. And what does the Pope more venerate than Mary? At least until the Pope Karol Wojtyla. Pope John Paul the, what was it, 23rd or what was it?
22nd, or the second,
the second,
John Paul II.
Yeah. So at least he was very famous for doing so because he was coming out of Poland. Yeah.
Yes.
And the perpetual rosary crusade, recitation. Yeah. So what about these? What about the Bible speaking of repetitious prayers?
Well, they just omit that, They got their own version of that.
Yeah, so they're connecting Fatima with Mary and the atom bomb with Fatima. And what also was happening was another natural phenomenon which just comes into my mind. But let's get it on here. Since the first A-bomb would explode only 8 city blocks from the Jesuit Church of Our Lady's Assumption where I was stationed in Hiroshima. Oh, what a coincidence. Yeah, and what a coincidence that in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the Middle Ages the Jesuits were expelled and they were killed. Yeah, so just pure coincidence. All the world is running not on conspiracy but on coincidence, huh?
Well, it's actually revenge.
Yeah, that you can assume, but you can't prove.
No, but we know it is.
Yeah. The Blue Army of Our Lady of Fatima. Oh, that reminds me especially of Regimini Militantis Ecclesiae, huh? The Blue Army. History of faith. In the 17th century, Japan had chosen to shut out Christianity from her islands. Before the atom bomb in 1945, there were hundreds of Buddhist temples and many Buddhist monasteries in Hiroshima. Oh, now it gets interesting. Most of the people had no knowledge of or interest in the Christian, so to speak, the Roman Catholic faith. Many were openly hostile. Our Hiroshima mission counted only 200 Catholics, about half of whom lived in the villages around the city. Francis Xavier, so the co-founder of the Jesuits, landed in Japan on 15th of August 1549. Imagine, yeah? Just 9 years after they had the official papal order. The feast of Our Lady's Glorious Assumption. Soon hundreds of thousands were baptized, including feudal lords, samurais, many Buddhist bonzes. Letters of the first Jesuit missionaries show time and again how these Japanese converts combined deep understanding of Christ's passion with reverence for his mother and how they love to say the rosary. Xavier had reasons to be proud of his converts among other nations of the Far East. That I know the Japanese are best opposed towards our Christian way of life. Very interesting. Ave Maria still practice the daily recitation of the Rosary. Yeah, speaking of spiritual exercises.
Mm-hmm.
The Jesuit Novitate in the northern outskirts of Hiroshima became a center for medical first aid and all kinds of assistance. The people will never forget the heroic sacrifices of the helpers of the Holy Souls. When the world seems to collapse, the sisters who had lost their convent and all their belongings worked entirely to help the wounded, and when GIs volunteered to build a small convent for the sisters, they immediately opened a kindergarten and a day nursery to help the poor mothers in the neighborhood. Yeah. Ad maiorem Dei Gloria. Yeah, so if you really look it up everywhere, you see that now you know the combination of Jesuits and Hiroshima, then you really will be astonished what informations are being withheld. That's the key. You see that they don't tell you. You have to ask. Yeah, as long as if you don't ask, no one will tell you. And even if you ask, that most likely you won't get an answer. Yeah. So that is very interesting that they were using, even in Japan, also that combination of Mary and Hiroshima. But it's also not it's a surprise on the other hand. Yeah. So just so they created a miracle on their own with surviving the extreme atomic blast in 1945. You see, that is a miracle on its own. And so they also had another argument that the Jesuitical faith is the real one, because they were protected by their mother of the Immaculate Heart bread. Yeah, that's just a wonder. Yeah, they created their own wonders by surviving the atomic blast. Yeah, it's very. It gets very deep when you think about all these things. They serve certain purposes at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Recently, the City Council of Cologne has presented Hiroshima with a pipe organ to be installed in the new shrine of our Blessed Mother.
Getting close to home, huh, Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota. What's happened there in the past?
Yeah.
Let's see, couple years. George Floyd. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kind of speaking of our recent crisis, so to speak.
Mary, the Queen of Peace. Oh, where can I find Mary, the Queen of Peace in the Bible? My. And she's not a virgin anymore, let me tell you.
No.
My. It's very interesting. You see, that key to understanding, we could not do the sessions if we would not have been read the Bible in the first place. Yeah, so we would believe everything they pointed out here, because it sounds so nice and sweet as sugar.
Well, yeah, there's no way to disprove it if you don't have the scripture.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There's no way to dispel it, is what I should say. Dispel the myth.
Oh, and now you pray to that one, to Saint Francis Assisi for peace.
Oh, yeah, necromancy.
Divine Master. Wow. Didn't know that he was being labeled with the Divine Master. Didn't know that. Yeah. So even from that pamphlet here, I can learn something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I also remember that there was a phenomena in Europe, Aurora Borealis, so the Northern Lights. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The Northern Lights. Were visible, seen in Europe in 19. I think it was 19. Oh, that's kind of. Can't I have a more decent look? Yeah, there it is. I think it was 1938, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the 26th of January 1938. Aurora Borealis seen in Europe. Yeah, the Aurora Borealis rarely seen in southern or western Europe. Tonight spread fear, once again. Yeah, fear-mongering. Spread fear in parts of Portugal and Lower Austria, while thousands of Britons were brought running into the streets in wonderment. And according to the things that I have learned from certain videos and books, it was the initial step also for the German dictator Adolf Hitler, he was seen that as a forecast, as a divine sign in the heavens that he now shall conquer Europe. Yeah, so you don't need the apparition of Mary to believe in some superstition and some myths or so. Yeah, so that also Hitler, as a Roman Catholic, he just believed that Aurora Borealis was a sign for him to start conquering. Or I think it was, I have looked it up. It was now it's time to share blood.
Oh, kind of like Constantine and this sign conquer.
Yeah, spot on, Brett.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, 1 week before Hitler became chancellor.
Really?
So this is what you won't find in the history books. You won't find it in history books, Brett.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. And I have to admit, you see that Aurora Borealis is really nice phenomenons in in Norway and so.
Yeah. It happens
Norway,
here in
Brett.
Yeah, but it happens here in Minnesota too.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of Norwegians and Swedes came to Minnesota.
Yeah, but that was the contribution I wanted to add to the session, huh? Yeah, that's what I wanted to add there, that you really see that people have really seen that signs and wonders in heaven as a divine intervention and as a sign or a prophecy or what else. And imagine that Satan and his disciples or his fallen angels, they can create lying wonders and they can do merry apparitions which have no substance at all when you look down to the real truth of the Bible. So that's what I wanted to add to the session, that it was not the rosary which saved the Jesuits, but pre-knowledge of the events to come.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, they're the orchestrators of these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know. They have pre-knowledge, yes, of course.
Okay,
they have the world's largest intelligence gathering, according to who was
Howard
it
Hunt,
again?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Howard Hunt. Yes. Interesting.
Okay, so then I would cut it here. So that's it, actually, in a nutshell. Yeah, you can go all the Jesuit route, but you will see that the Jesuits were expelled in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and so they were out for revenge. Everything else in the atomic religion is just poor religion. It's just a faith. It's just a belief system. Yeah, the Catholic or Jesuitical father says it was noised about the ruins of the city amid a deadly race, and that workers who went there to aid in the clearing died, and that the central district would be uninhabitable for some time to come. Yeah, that is the reason, Brad, why they have doubled their civilians in 5 years. Yeah, so it's all rumors and fear and all the things in the midst of it. You see, you got, if I remember correctly, Jesuitical monastery in Hiroshima. I'm really ashamed that I can't find that on the spot. Hiroshima Jesuit monastery. Yeah, the priest who survived Hiroshima. The Jesuits priest, 8 Jesuit missionaries, like the 8 people in the Noah's Ark, huh? Wasn't that 8 people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. The Jesuit priest who survived Hiroshima. In the midst of the devastation, 8 Jesuit missionaries, so they were on a mission, who were in their rectory, survived. Sure. An aerial view of Our Lady in Assumption Church after the August 6, 1945 bombing. A small group of priests can be seen standing in the road in front of the church. Yeah, that's it. Oh, thanks for the propaganda. The Rosary Crusade. Triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. my. Yeah? Yeah, they won't tell you about firebombing, firestorms, napalm, yeah, and all the things, they won't tell you. Yeah, they will tell you they were miraculously surviving that attack. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. He could feel a few pieces of glass in the back of his neck. As far as he could tell, there was nothing else physically wrong with himself. Many thousands were killed or maimed by the explosion after the conquest of the Americans. Their army doctors and scientists explained to him that his body would begin to deteriorate because of the radiation. Aha. Many of the Japanese people had blisters and sores from the radiation. Yeah. Ah. Sure, not from the heat, huh? To the doctor's amazement, Father Schiffer's body contained no radiation or ill effects from the bomb. Yeah, but that was not Father Schiffer's body alone, Brad. Father Schiffer attributes this to devotion to the Blessed Mother and his daily Fatima rosary. Yeah, you see that it's the end of the session now, because you know who's behind it. It's just propaganda. And it serves the purpose of fear-mongering. That's it. That's the entire atom thing, actually. Once again, I don't doubt that there is atomic power. Yeah? But that is, and atomic power stations, but that is for future sessions. What's up with them? And I knew that I needed one session on Hiroshima because you have to see it from different perspectives. But I hope that you now really have some clues or some hints, some links that you can think about why it was Hiroshima and why it was not Tokyo. Because sure, if they really wanted Japan to end the war, why would they not attack a big military arsenal? Why would they not attack a major city? But Hiroshima had just 250,000 inhabitants. But yeah, now you know the most likely reason is why the Jesuits, they had been killed there a few hundred years ago. And don't come with that argument that you say, oh yeah, that's just a few hundred years ago, that's not valid anymore. Well, you see, the Jesuits have been erected 1534 and been set in power by the papal bull in 1540 as the regime of the militant regime of the church in 1540, and they are still in that position, and they are becoming more and more powerful. So don't come with the argument that it's not valid anymore because it was a few hundred years ago. That is still valid, and what absolutely valid is that Jesus Christ was walking the earth about 2,000 years ago, Brad. And on that, I would like to end the session and hand it over to you. Thanks very much for bearing with me, and I hope to see you soon in the next session of the Atom.
Yeah, Michael, that is quite a load that you put on our plate today. But, you know, I think we've been preparing for that for a while in the sessions we did previous to this on the Atom series, the atomists, the world compared to the biblical knowledge. And, yeah, it's really quite troubling. But nonetheless, we're not supposed to be ignorant of these things, are we, Michael?
I think it's our duty to do something for the Lord, and if we can do that virtually here on the internet, as long as we are allowed to spread the truth, then we have to at least do a service to our brethren and sisters, that they see they don't have to fear, because the fear of man is a snare, but it's just about the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom.
Yeah. That's where we want to base everything on, that we are fearful for the judgment of Almighty God, and those areas of our life that we have fallen short, we need to repent of. It's just that simple, and all repentance is just changing your mind. It's just changing your mind. Well, rather let God change your mind. Don't change it yourself. Read his book. Read his testimony, the testimony of Jesus Christ. That's the truth. That's the truth that we wish to understand and to come to a better terms with, because that's the only way that we're going to be redeemed according to the Word of God. Is we're going to be redeemed by taking on his laws and his testimony, which is through the Word of God. it's like that old saying that it's the Bible and the Bible alone that brings us to the knowledge of God's truth. It's not through man's wisdom. It's not through our works. But certainly works has something to do with our faith, you know? And it's simple, but at the same time, it's difficult because there are a lot of things going on. It's a very busy time right now, and things just seem to get busier, don't they, Michael? They don't ever seem to let up. So we'll continue next time, God willing. Come back and do some more sessions with Michael on the series. And in the meantime, wish everyone is doing well and enduring with their, what shall we say, hardships and difficulties in this life, because none of us are really having an easy time, although some think we are, but in reality we're not. We're having hard times, and this life is going to be putting us to the test no matter what. We're going to be tried. So prepare yourselves and remember to ask the Lord, and He will guide you into all truth. And with that, Maranatha.